Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird, the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Saturday, October 5th, 2024, and the 14th of Libra. Good morning to the ghouls, and this is the day of ghosts. For planetary astrology, the sun is in Libra, cardinal air, representing justice. The moon is first quarter Scorpio, fixed water, which is brooding. Mercury is in Libra, cardinal air, representing the visionary. Venus is in Scorpio, fixed water, representing passion. Mars is in Cancer, cardinal water, which is seeking security. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, representing questing. Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is to redefine dreams. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is spiritual awakening. And Pluto is retrograding in Capricorn, cardinal earth, which is transformation. For the retrograde reminders, for Saturn, reclaim your authority. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. For Neptune, reclaim your magic. For Pluto, reclaim your ability to regenerate. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our moon phase is a waxing crescent, which means it's time to plan creatively. For the Scorpio moon, do relentlessly focus, research, and reveal motivations. Don't be trying to build trust right now. Go to family gatherings if you can help it, or indulge in any form of toxic sexuality. So, on this day of the Saturn, both Saturn and the moon have us looking deeply within, create detailed plans of where you want to end up, and then work backwards from there until you can see a series of practical steps to get you from point A to point B and so on. It's important to do this because we are coming to the time period in which Saturn will be moving out of retrograde in the not too terribly distant future, which means this time to redefine our dreams, to really rethink what we're doing, and just take charge of our lives again. It's going to be winding down as far as having an ideal opportunity for that. And of course, you don't want to waste all that good, lunar Scorpio energy, because that's going to help all of the impulses that the Saturn retrograde has brought us. And taking the time to formulate a plan, this also is a way of not letting yourself off the hook. Lots of people are excellent dreamers, but they're not exactly excelling as doers. So if you are needing to change that, this is the ideal time to make those arrangements. Now, for our tarot card of the day, we have the Chariot. It is part of the major arcana, of course, which means it's going to have a longer term, more powerful impact than the other cards. Its number is 7, which refers to illusions, but also the breakthroughs through illusions. And the keywords are assuming the driver's seat, having strength of character, and movement in life, and all of which is embodied in the really adorable image that we're looking at right now. So it's kind of a scary thing to seize control of your life, particularly if you've been brought up with a mindset that made you perhaps a bit more at the whims of other people, or if you've been in a process of breaking free from ideologies that said, well, things aren't really up to you. It's about what the system wants or what other people want or this or that. And so rejecting all of that and saying, no, this is my little life. I have a jurisdiction and purview over it. And if I'm going to take anyone into consideration, it's going to be my nearest and dearest, not what the politicians want, not what some philosopher want, not what someone who's getting paid to promote a certain social movement wants. It's going to be about where do I really belong? What is the meaning of my life? So while that can be scary for people, I would encourage people to work through that fear. It's so much changes when you decide that you're the one in charge of your life. So much changes. And by the time you do make that transition, you'll really be wondering, why didn't you do that years ago? Next up, the Celtic Triad, three things which one does not see half enough: life, health, and riches. Pretty obvious with all of these. There's never enough life, and there's never enough more of it, enriching and meaningful life. I mean, these are things that are always be desired, and you're always wanting them in abundance. And there's no such thing as too much good health. There's some attempts to create health as practices that I think do go too far. But as far as health itself goes, there isn't an upper limit. And then as far as having ample financial resources, that does tend to make life a lot easier for us, at least until those wretched tax collectors come calling. If there was one thing I would unilaterally reform in this country if I could, it would be that hideous tax code. It should not be this complicated, we're going to make so many regulations that we can find anyone guilty of something at any particular time and then have them on the hook for as long as we feel like it. That's it's corrupt to do things that way. It's mean-spirited, and it doesn't actually, uh, make it easier for the proper funding of proper government responsibilities to take place. Not that the current politicians in office would know anything at all about reasonable budgeting. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd just, flat rate, 10%, everybody, no exemptions. That would be a lot easier to automate that process. I would do away with, redundant taxes on things. And I would essentially be looking at the powers that be saying, you only have certain enumerated duties. And if people have more of their own resources, they're going to be less likely to fall into dire financial circumstances. They're going to be in a better position to plan for their futures. And of course, when there's a need for charity, private individuals and spiritual communities can take care of their own as opposed to relying on some bureaucrat's mercy. I don't know how many more generations of people putting the welfare state on a respirator, how many more generations of people we're going to have who do that before we finally realize that what, that whole thing does not work as advertised. There are a lot of reasons why it cannot act as advertised, and there's a reason why it is wrong and why it's not the government's place, and why you do need to leave this to more human solutions rather than the whole legalistic, I'm going to manipulate all this for my own political benefit kind of approach, which is what we've been dealing with for years and years. So I do hope people wake up to that sooner rather than later. But moving on, today's magical correspondences have to do with secrets. The color is gray, the plant is sage, the animal's the weasel, and the crystal is the smoky quartz. Don't be surprised if some secrets should find their way to the service and public knowledge during Samhain season. The dead are whispering, a lot of things are just begging to get out. And we've been seeing a lot of different shifts of movement in which there's indications that at some point, the truth about a lot of things is going to come out. People will be aware of it, at least the people who have brains in their heads. And there's just going to have to be reckoning with a lot of things. A lot of things are going to have to get set straight. And just don't be surprised if you see some of that here. Then, for practices, Saturday, I thought it might be fun to explore puppet magic. And don't worry, we're not going to be sticking needles in to cause people harm with this. But next up is what is the symbolism of ghosts? How are you like the energy of the planet Saturn? What does Saturnalian wisdom consist of? And Saturdays, I've designated this a spiritual day. So if you haven't already, change your altar over to its Samhain decor and make an offering today. Now for the poppet magic. First off, can you name non-destructive uses for poppets? And I will give you a head start. For one, it can be used in healing work. And I found a series of these cheat sheets on Pinterest, which sadly was not really credited, but it's very good information. So I'll just read this out to you now. And of course, you can take a screenshot if you want to examine it later. But poppets can be used for a variety of spells. Although some people feel that they have evil connotations, they are only showing their ignorance about this type of magic, which is often called folk magic. Puppets are only as evil as the intent you place upon them with your own emotions. There's nothing wrong with protecting yourself from someone who is out to hurt you, your family, a friend, etc. In addition, the original Wiccan Rede does not forbid you from protecting yourself or others, or indeed the Rede as most people understand it before. I did a whole video, Wicca 101, about the read, and I've reiterated that particular sermon on many occasions. But if you are interested in that, you can go to the Wicca 101 playlist on my YouTube channel, and you can find the video about the Wiccan read and hear what I have to say about that. But those that demand you follow the path of light and love, never protecting yourself, are those who've never undergone formal training in the true Wiccan traditions or paganism. I would also say that people who think that light and love means that that it's wrong to defend it, that they don't have an understanding of what light and love really is. For instance, if someone's child is threatened, people will react extraordinarily violently if the occasion warrants it. And there's nothing wrong with them doing that because they're protecting their child. And that is essentially one of the most foremost duties of parents in particular, and adults in general in society. No one should be harming children in any fashion. That isn't and protecting them through whatever means are deemed necessary, that is an expression of love. And also light, given so many naggy videos about how light does not, what light and dark actually means, particularly in the context of witchcraft, and the associations with light equaling good and dark equaling bad. That is a leftover of an Abrahamic mindset that is utterly incompatible with not only pagan philosophy, but reality. Reality itself rejects that worldview. So I'm very, very tired of having to repeat myself on that. So please, for the love of all the gods, don't make me do it again. Then it goes on to say there are all people that have been solitary and self-schooled who have decided to intertwine teachings of the Eastern tradition into the Wiccan practices, ignore them as they are ignorant as to what Wicca really is. And this brings up a secondary point of not all ideas are actually compatible. And that's why when you're seeing conflicting ideas, you really need to see what holds up to scrutiny. What can you find as a measurable expression and a reflection of reality itself? Because reality, nature, natural law, that is the measuring stick. That's how we really determine truth from fiction. If you want to talk about the need for people to do more research, they need to conduct that kind of research about what ideas actually stand up, not, how many different books they can quote from authors who said that it's fine. It's about what actually stands up, what do things like in practice, and what ideas are actually compatible, what actually points towards a larger truth that we're all trying to seek from, and what are just bad ideas that just really do need to fall by the wayside. People are very reluctant to do this because they feel like even if they never speak of their conclusions to another soul, that they are somehow passing judgment and therefore that makes them bad people. You know, we have so much work to do of getting out of that kind of thinking. But it's a conversation for another time. Anyway, the journal prompt for today. Do you think modern cemeteries sufficiently honor the dead? Why or why not? And I think this could be an interesting thought experiment for someone to travel down of just, we have these headstones, we have these markers, we have these cemeteries set aside, we put people in the ground or we scatter their ashes, all these things. And it's just what's done that we're not necessarily thinking about, is this showing honor? Is this really fulfilling their legacy, honoring the memory of them? We don't ask ourselves that, and I think it'd be worthwhile taking a second look at this, both as to how cemeteries are designed and how we would want our own remains situated with, and our thought process behind that, as well as what we would want our own markers to look like as pagans and witches. And especially since as time goes on and we continue to grow and we start having more pagan families and you have multiple generations of that, I think not only will we start having areas set aside that are specifically for our worship, whether or not people are building temples, just having places where we come and gather. I think all right along with that, you'll also see the institution of explicitly pagan cemeteries. And I think that is something that does need to happen. And I do hope that I see that sort of thing in my lifetime. But if I don't, there's always the next life, the next time I happen to be incarnated. And in the meantime, I think it's something worthwhile building towards, do having places where we can rest our dead with dignity, with honor, with the proper respect that they are owed. So, just a few thoughts on that. On that note, have a magical and delightfully spooky day. Enjoy the beginning of the weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.